What up, you beautiful nerds? Fallout here, and today we're going over every weapon in Space Marine 2, a game I've really been enjoying lately. This video will be a PvE only weapon review, but if you're interested in a PvP weapon review for all the weapons, go ahead and let me know down in the comment section. Alright, away we go. First, we're going to cover all primary weapons in the game, starting with the Auto Bolt Rifle. Consider the Auto Bolt Rifle your standard baseline PvE weapon. It fires full auto, has respectable rate of fire and range, and a decent basic mag size of 35. By the way, during today's video, keep an eye on mag sizes and especially ammo reserves for every gun. A fairly decent rule of thumb for Space Marine 2 is the lower the ammo reserves, the better the gun. Most of the time, anyway. But getting back on course, the Auto Bolt Rifle is your baseline PvE primary weapon. I have no problem with the Auto Bolt Rifle, the same way I have no problem with vanilla ice cream. I'll take it over nothing, but if there are other options on the table, chocolate, cookie dough, yeah, I'm probably going to reach for that instead. Next up, we have the Bolt Rifle. And you might be thinking, oh, it doesn't have auto in the name, like the Auto Bolt Rifle. Therefore, it must not fire full auto. But no, it does. Yeah, they both fire full auto. Kind of weird naming choice, but who am I to question the arsenal provided by our glorious Emperor? As you can see, stat-wise, the Bolt Rifle outperforms the Auto Bolt Rifle in many categories. Better firepower, better accuracy, better piercing, and better range. For the record, piercing is the ability for your shot to go through multiple targets in one go. You'll notice the overall mag and inventory size is also a tad smaller. Remember what I said earlier? Well, there you go. Really, the Auto Bolt Rifle has a better rate of fire and mag, and that's about it. Between the two, I think I much prefer the Bolt Rifle. We're not yet at the point in this weapon review where the ammo reserve size is very teeny, and after a bunch of hours dumped into the game, I prefer the harder hitting variant to the faster rate of fire, but you do you. Endgame versions of the Bolt Rifle come with very high damage variants, which is awesome. I think I'm going to aim for the Cathalmar Crusade version, higher damage and higher accuracy, aka less weapon spread when firing. Weapon spread is a very annoying thing to deal with, which will come into play a bit more with other weapons later on. Next up, we have the Heavy Bolt Rifle, basically a harder hitting variant of the Auto Bolt Rifle, and yes, also fully automatic. By the way, if you're noticing these plus signs near the weapon stats, that's just a smidge of an improvement. Think of it like a 0.5. For example, you'll notice that the Auto Bolt Rifle and the Heavy Bolt Rifle both have a firepower where the number begins with 2, but the firepower meter, that little bar next to the number, it's slightly bigger on the Heavy Bolt Rifle, hence the Heavy Bolt Rifle having 2+ and not just 2. In short, the Heavy Bolt Rifle is a little bit more accurate and a little bit harder hitting than the Auto Bolt Rifle, with better piercing, better range, and a bigger mag. For those reasons, I hard take the Heavy Bolt Rifle over the Auto in basically all PvE content at the moment. Yeah, the rate of fire is lower, I'm okay with that. While higher variants of the regular Auto Bolt Rifle can have their firepower raised to about 8, the Heavy can go up to 9+, which is awesome. Next up, we have a weapon I'm sure a lot of people are going to have hard opinions about, the Stalker Bolt Rifle. A semi-auto rifle that has a zoomed-in scope that you can use if you choose to. The in-game menu calls it a, quote, high-powered rifle, and man, are they right about that. This thing packs a goddamn wallop for something that at first glance I thought was just a glorified scout rifle. Even big bad enemies get flat-out demolished by the Stalker. You'll honestly be surprised at how much damage it does. Honestly, I really loved using this weapon during the campaign, but it has such a major flaw that it drives me crazy. The ungodly low mag and ammo reserve size. 12 in the mag, 36 reserve total max. If you're wielding this thing, you run out of ammo faster than I run out of Oreos in late April. You can make it work though if you save all your shots for beefier targets and rely on your secondary weapon to mop up trash, which is what I try to do most of the time. But yeah, manage that ammo well or you're gonna be dry immediately. Looking at later versions of the weapon, I am 100% eyeballing the Cathalmar Crusade variant. Yeah, it doesn't hit as hard as the Ophelian Liberation, which can hit 12+ firepower, good lord, but it will up your ammo and reserve count, again fixing the weapon's Achilles heel. Very interested to see how the Stalker plays out in PvP at the recording of this video. I have yet to play any PvP, but again, if you want a PvP weapon review version of today's video, Let me know down in the comment section. Next up, we have the Bolt Carbine, which essentially is the Warhammer version of an SMG. As you can imagine, it has less damage output than even the auto bolt rifle. The Carbine is actually the weakest firepower primary in the game on paper. It does try to make up for that with a very good rate of fire, 8+, and a respectable ammo reserve. If your goal is to just mow through trash at mid to close range with not a melee weapon, the Carbine will get the job done. Not that the Carbine does exceptionally bad against larger enemies or anything, but I'd probably rather hit him with a stronger gun if given the opportunity. Later variants of the weapon can actually reach firepower levels up to 9+, but at the cost of harming the rate of fire. If you want an endgame variant of the weapon that doesn't harm the rate of fire, you can get the damage up to 7+, which isn't bad. Until I get to unlock these endgame level weapons, I'll probably just stick to a different primary for personal preference. Next up, we got the Plasma Incinerator, which hits very hard for a rifle, 4+, and has a 5+ accuracy, not bad. The Incinerator has a unique weapon stat found on plasma weapons called venting speed, aka the time required for a heated weapon to cool all the way down. Yeah, if you didn't know, the Incinerator fires the way a plasma weapon from Halo would. Fire it too fast without managing your venting meter and the weapon will overheat, forcing you to wait for the full cooldown before being able to fire again. Also, like the Halo plasma pistol, you can charge up a full power shot on the Incinerator, which hits extremely hard. Gotta tell you, the temptation is really strong to just go around the map spamming that charge up shot 24/7, but trust me, you shouldn't do that. Fight the urge, my brothers. Every charge up shot hits like a line drive to the face, but they'll take you 10 ammo apiece, which adds up quick if you don't pay attention. Trust me, you gotta condition yourself to use the individual single shot pew-pews on low-level trash and save the charge-up shots for larger enemies only. And the Incinerator actually deals with them damn well. I think so far the Plasma Incinerator is one of my favorite PvE weapons for being really versatile. I used it for a lot of the main campaign. Next up, we have the Melta Rifle, and I'm gonna tell you, rifle, kind of a strong word. I'm gonna go ahead and call this what it is: single shot energy shotgun. The Melta has dog water stats for everything except firepower and piercing, which it has in spades. Let me tell you, if you can properly manage your primary ammo and not go to town 24/7, the Melta Rifle is fire in all PvE content, campaign and operations. It blasts through waves of trash like nothing and demolishes bigger targets as well. Again, pretty glaring weakness though, a very, very small reserve of just 15 total with 5 in the mag. Even still, I think the Melta is very worth it in PvE if you either A, find one at any point in the campaign, or B, play a class that can actually use the Melta in endgame operations like the tactical. If you can train yourself to rely on your primary for the most part, you can really save the Melta for those times where you're getting overrun, or if you just see a lot of enemies, including one bigger bad guy really bunched up close together. The Aphelion, whatever it is, variant of the weapon improves both mag and reserve size, which is extra nice. I will be gunning for that version. But real quick, today's video is sponsored by Fabletics, so why don't we thank them for sponsoring the channel. Fabletics combines athletic wear and fashion. They sent me a few outfits and I gotta tell you, they fit really fine and they're very comfy. Right now I have on their training day tee. And yeah, I chose black after years of making fun of hunters for picking super black shaders all the time in D2. Gotta say, I get it now. Fabletics outfits are made with premium quality, reinforced stitching for longevity, moisture wicking, and anti-odor. Really wish I had these with me in Florida. And if you're wondering, activewear, are they comfy even when you're being active? Let's find out. Feel the burn. Ooh, yep. Still comfy. By the way, they have a VIP program where right after signing up, you can get a whopping 80% off your first purchase site-wide. VIP members also save up to 50% off all day, every day on all products. In addition to consistent discounts, every month your membership will get you 1 credit to redeem for a 2-piece outfit or any product up to $100. It's also flexible, so you can skip a month and won't be charged as long as you skip between the 1st and 5th of each month. Hit up my link in the pinned comment to get 80% off site-wide when signing up to be a VIP, and thank you again, Fabletics. All right, we back. Moving right along, we come to the Instigator Bolt Carbine, aka a pulse rifle if you play Destiny 2 or many other games. In short, it's a rifle with a zoomed in scope, which I like, and it fires 3 rounds out at a time in burst fire. It has an okay mag size of 24 and 144 reserves, but again, it does go through it rather quickly due to firing 3 at a time and the very high rate of fire. It's actually faster than the Carbine. I really like how this gun gun feels. Feels good to shoot, just handles well. But yeah, manage your ammo, don't spam it too much, and you'll be okay. It's a real workhorse of a weapon. The Cathalmor endgame variant has a higher mag and reserve, so yay to that. Next is the Oculus Bolt Carbine, a rapid-fire mid-range weapon with a decent magazine. I'm gonna be completely real with y'all. I'm not wild about this gun. The high rate of fire is not bad, but the accuracy is just unforgivable. You're gonna find that if you spam shoot too much, it's just gonna bloom out way bad really quickly. I know it's technically more accurate than the Carbine, but the big bulky scope on it makes me mentally want to use it like a rifle, and it just doesn't want to be used further than SMG range by design. I don't know, I think I used it in campaign when I didn't have any other options to reach for, but 9 times out of 10, I'm going with a different gun. At least it can cut through trash pretty well if that's your priority. Moving on, the Bolt Sniper Rifle. Exactly what it sounds like. Big ol' sniper rifle with a scope that has 2 levels of zoom, fire 1 shot at a time with bolt action, and hit big headshot damage. The Bolt Sniper is high quality. It's one of 2 major long-range weapons in the game, and as it turns out, this ended up being my second favorite option between the 2, but it's still very good. It does what it was made to do very well, and the advantages I'd say it has over its long-range competition: 1, the ammo capacity, and 2, the ability to hit certain teleporting enemies easier. If you like clicking heads, give it a try. Shouldn't have to say this, by the way, but obviously do not use your sniper on anything other than big beefy enemies. Zero trash killing. Don't get me wrong, it is fun, but a huge waste of ammo. Next, my favorite long-range weapon, Lost Fusil. Another scoped sniper rifle, but unlike the Bolt, Lost Fusil is a charge-up shot. Fellow Destiny 2 players think linear fusion rifle. This gun is what not all, but many D2 linear fusions wish they could grow up to be. LF feels good to use. Hitting bigger, chunkier enemies never gets old with this gun. And yeah, the mag is a pitiful 12, and having an enemy dodge your charge-up shot due to teleportation or whatever feels horrible. But when you land shots, damn good feeling, and the enemy will likely just get hit so hard that they just flat out die. I didn't originally think I wanted to use this gun very much because Space Marines in general is just very in the mess of things carnage, but I was wrong. LF does great, even up close. Even when using this gun, I found myself in the mess of combat a lot rather than being way in the back. The Cathalmor variant, by the way, ups the ammo count to 20, which is awesome. Definitely the version I want the most. Almost at the end for primaries. Next up, we have the Heavy Bolter, which is more or less a giant heavy machine gun. The default Heavy Bolter actually has the same rate of fire as the Bolt Carbine on paper, 8+, but unlike the Bolt Carbine, the Heavy Bolter hits way harder with a 3 in firepower. So, what's the catch? You don't start off with the max rate of fire, you have to build up to it by holding the trigger down and shooting the gun non-stop. Which, okay, fine, but the longer you fire the gun, the wilder the weapon spread becomes to a point where it's super hard to aim your shots and control. So the gun wants you to hold the trigger down to ramp up and reach high rate of fire, but you almost can't due to the extreme bloom, which again happens very quickly. Granted, you can just hold the trigger down if the enemies are so close to you that bloom doesn't matter at that point, but still, I was oddly irritated by the Heavy Bolter and found that very few times did I actually manage to ramp up to the full rate of fire instead of doing occasional burst ramp ups. It's still a fun weapon, but I don't know. Try it out for yourself. The accuracy bloom ramps up way too fast for my liking. You can get an endgame version of the weapon with 4 accuracy. That'll probably be the one that I shoot for. Next, the Heavy Plasma Incinerator, another weapon unique to the Heavy class in operations. The Heavy Plasma shoots explosive plasma shots in an arc. They'll sink down to the ground like a grenade launcher rather than fly in a straight line. You can also fire a charge-up shot for more damage, and that'll cost 5 ammo, and that's kind of risky because you only have 35 reserves to begin with. I'm gonna keep it a buck. I do not like the Heavy Plasma Incinerator. I found that when enemies got too close to me, I felt very caught off guard and not able to defend myself as well. I mean, it's entirely possible I just need to put in more work with this gun, but then again, it also has extreme competition, as the Heavy class also gets access to the last primary weapon before we get to other weapons, the Multi-Melta. This is just a bigger, badder version of the Melta Rifle, and as you can imagine, good lord, this thing fucks. 8 plus firepower, 10 piercing, 20 ammo, and no reloading required. Just like its little brother, the Melta, get up close and blast through enemies like they're absolutely nothing at all. If I'm playing the heavy, I will use the Multi-Melta over the Plasma 100% of the time. It's so straightforward and incredible, it pays for itself in destruction almost immediately. And yeah, the ammo reserves are low, just rely on your secondary to mop up trash and lone baddies. Then, if you're facing a big boy or you bump into a clump of trash, whip out that Melta and turn all of them into confetti. Alright, moving on to secondary weapons and then melee options, starting with the bolt pistol. Just your everyday average semi-auto backup weapon with not bad ammo reserves. I think the pistol's fine, especially if your primary is, say, a Melta Rifle and you need something to rely on for low intensity trash clearing. Gotta make sure you have something to prevent you from burning through low ammo primary weapons. The bolt pistol's weird cousin is the plasma pistol, basically a smaller version of the plasma incinerator. Fire single pew-pews or hold down a very hard-hitting charge-up shot. I like the plasma pistol a lot, and will take it over the bolt pistol slightly more often than not. You gotta be careful with that charge-up shot though, that will burn up to 10 ammo like its big brother, the incinerator. Go ahead and go single shot for all the trash and charge-up shot for the big boys. Don't get too charge-up shot happy. Next, we have the heavy bolt pistol, which if you're running operations can only be used by the assault class. The heavy bolt pistol is very close to the standard bolt pistol, except it has better accuracy, range, and hits almost twice as hard. The trade-off is a slower rate of fire and a much shallower mag. I think between the two options, I prefer the heavy bolt pistol, especially since the majority of the time I'm using it to begin with, I'm playing on the assault class and I'm mashing trash into a paste with a freaking hammer. If you want, you can use the heavy bolt pistol when a big bad charges at you as an appetizer, and then you follow it with an entree of hammer. Moving on to melee weapons, we start out with the Chainsword, which a few classes can use. The Chainsword is pretty solid, and the weapon with the second best rating at dealing with single target enemies, as indicated by the color sliding bar over there on the left. We also have a new weapon stat, Defense, which has 3 sub-options if you hover over that option: fencing, block, or balanced. The difference in those 3 options is how big your perfect parry window is going to be with that melee weapon. Fencing is a larger perfect parry window, balanced is a regular perfect parry window, and block is no perfect parry window at all. The hardest hitting Chainsword variant, the Gathalamore, has a 14 in the damage category, and it has the block defense. No parrying or clever counterplay, just swing away and cleave. I like the Chainsword probably more than I care to admit. It has a lot of fun combos that involve shoving big targets around or dishing out other forms of crowd control. It's just fun. I think the other sword melee option is kind of the more badass power fantasy, if I'm being completely honest. Just a glowing blue sword, but yeah, Chainsword is cool, much respect. Next, might as well talk about the Power Sword because I just mentioned it, which in operations can only be wielded by the Bulwark. The Power Sword may take players a bit of getting used to. There's 2 ways you can wield it that you can change between on the battlefield. In regular mode, the sword swings relatively quick, but won't hit nearly as hard. If you change stance and power it up, the sword glows blue like some Bilbo Baggins bullshit, and the trade-off is more damage per swing, but you swing it a little bit slower. I like the Power Sword a lot. I don't think it's the best melee weapon in the game, but yeah, it's good and it looks awesome as hell. If you start experimenting with the Power Sword, you're probably going to use it in quote power mode most of the time just to not complicate things, but I'm going to recommend that you try to swap back and forth between alternate modes in combat. After all, what good is versatility if you're not going to take advantage of it? Moving on, we have the Power Fist, a larger than average glove, which just isn't for punching. Basically, you can make very short-range explosive shockwaves. If you don't have access to the hammer, I think the Power Fist is a decent crowd control melee weapon. The combos in particular I kinda enjoy. Other than being not as good at single target damage, I think my main issue with the Power Fist is that it isn't a gigantic glowing sword. But again, not bad crowd control, you do you. Down to the final 2, and next up is the Combat Knife, wieldable in operations only by the Vanguard class. I really like the Combat Knife. It's very reliable for beefy single target dueling, and especially when using the Vanguard, you can just grapple right to any target you want and start cutting them up right away. I think if you have a ranged weapon with you to help with ad clear, then hell yeah to the combat knife. Very fun. Give it a try. Last but not least, we have the Thunder Hammer, only wieldable in endgame operations by the Assault class. Regular big swings, or you can charge up your swings for extra damage. The hammer is an ad clear machine, and it is awesome. You can still beat up on big bad enemies, especially if you have a jetpack charge ready, but for the most part, if you can have someone on your fire team ready to shut down big bad guys, then the hammer is so unbelievably free. The combos are painfully simple, but this may be one of, if not the most satisfying weapons in the game to me. Do yourself a favor, even if you main another class, at some point, go full on head empty and try out the Assault class with the hammer. It's fantastic. By the way, I know there's a flamethrower weapon you can use briefly in the campaign, but because that isn't available in operations, I'm not covering it here because we don't have the weapon stats, and again, only available briefly in campaign. Anyway, let me know what your favorite weapons are so far and why down in the comment section so I can argue with you about why the Melta Rifle is better. Thanks very much for watching. Peace!